Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Aiden, and it is, do you think that making Smoke's gadget unable to see through using Glaz's scope would be a good slight buff to Smoke and a nerf to Glaz? That is not a bad idea. I know there's been a lot of talk recently in the Rainbow Six Siege community about bringing in some sort of operator or having an existing operator counter Glaz, because right now there isn't a counter to him. I know that some people will argue, oh, just don't peek him, and while that is solid advice, that's not really a direct counter. I mean, Glaz, as long as he's competent, is going to push the objective. He's going to lay down his smoke screen, he's going to put it right in that doorway, and he's going to have an easy kill against you. And while you might get lucky every once in a while shooting through that smoke screen and get a headshot, more often than not, he has a massive advantage, and it's one of the reasons why so many people are asking to have a counter. And so what I like about your suggestion is that it wouldn't just flat out nerf Glaz into oblivion, but it would give defense an option to counter his smokescreen tactic. Now, I know we talked about this briefly in a past Sunday mailbox, but one of the things I think would really reduce his potency is just making it so that he no longer has access to smoke grenades himself. That way, if he wants to perform this, he actually has to have a teammate. There needs to be some teamwork, and I think that would be a good thing. But to take it a step further, and honestly, I love this concept now the more that I think about it, is if you do see a Glaz on the enemy team, you see a smoke screen go down, if you had smoke, all he would need to do is throw his gas canister in there, and all of a sudden you have neutralized that tactic. And while of course you could use this in other ways, it's one of the reasons why the gas canisters are so powerful right now, because they are so flexible, but it would actually give defense some way to combat that smoke screen, and I think that that would be a good step in the right direction. And so in general, I think this is a really interesting concept that I would like to see Ubisoft explore. If you notice that the enemy is constantly picking Fuse, you're going to play as Jaeger. If you notice that they're really getting a lot of use out of Valkyrie, then you're going to play as IQ to counter that operator. Right now, if you notice that Glaz is constantly picked, your only real option, I guess you could say, is Jaeger to try to deal with his smoke grenades, kind of grab those out of the air with his trophy system. But other than that, you're just kind of boned, and there's really no direct counter. And while I know that we don't need a direct counter for every operator, not every operator needs a direct counter, I think that this is a very interesting take on it and could be a good thing for Rainbow Six Siege and add a different layer of tactics that we don't currently have. The next question comes from Ewan, and it is, what is your thoughts on attacking operator in Rainbow Six Siege that at the start of the round could drop helmets for the whole team, which could protect them from 1 or 2 headshots? Well, I don't know for certain, because I have a feeling that the only way we would know if it was any good is to actually get our hands on it, but I have a feeling that this would be the most overpowered, game-changing operator ever introduced into Rainbow Six Siege. The entire game revolves around the one-shot headshot mechanic, and while I know there's a lot of people out there that don't play this game anymore because of that mechanic, if there was a way that you could survive a headshot and it was more focused on putting a lot of bullets into your enemy like every other first-person shooter, I'm sure some people would be really happy about that. But to bring it in as an operator just doesn't sit well with me. I have a feeling that everyone on offense would want to have this guy on his team, because just simply absorbing 1 or 2 more bullets for a headshot would be a game changer. One of the reasons why Blackbeard was as overpowered when he first released, and while I know this is an extreme example because not everyone would be getting a shield at the end of their weapon, like it's not that bad, but the reason why Blackbeard was so good is because you couldn't get a headshot against him, he could get a headshot against you, and that just gives him an unfair advantage. I mean, he's all about getting kills. I mean, that's all he brings to the table. Now imagine if everyone on your team could absorb 1 or 2 headshots, still come out of it alive, and that would give them that split second or that opportunity to then take you down. We already have problems with hit registration. Imagine the complaints when all of a sudden you notice that you are getting a headshot against one and they're not dropping. I feel like that would be very rage-inducing. And so I don't know if I'm entirely sold on this concept. Once again, I know there's probably people out there that really like it because they just don't like the one-shot headshot mechanic, but because it is a key component of Rainbow Six Siege, I just don't think that it's necessary. The next question is, what is your thoughts on the recent reveal of Call of Duty World War II? Well, this may come as a bit of a surprise because, you know me, I'm just a huge COD player, But I'm actually a bit excited about this. I really like World War II games. I mean, this is the reason why I've wanted Battlefield and other first-person shooters to go back to this time period, because we've had a drought of this era. We haven't had a lot of World War games, and the fact that Battlefield and now Call of Duty are going back to the roots makes me really excited. Now, I will be reserving my judgment until we finally see gameplay, though. The trailer was awesome. It had a lot going on. The cinematics were great. The animations looked fantastic. But at the end of the day, it was a trailer, and I'm not going to get too excited until we finally do see some actual combats. My hope is that they take a more serious tone with the gameplay and just the game in general. Now, I know the single player will be taken seriously because they always go super serious. Everything is hardcore. It's never funny or anything like that. I'm not worried about that. But I'm also kind of worried about the multiplayer. Hopefully the setting and the respect that they have for soldiers and the soldiers that, were in combat at that time, they're not gonna have super obnoxious customization. If we get dabbing soldiers with flamboyant camos, that is going to be a pretty big disappointment. One thing that I am getting my hopes up for, though, is their new game mode, War. From what it sounds like, it's going to be operations from Battlefield. We don't know a whole lot about it, but essentially what it boils down to is that one team is going to be offense, one is on defense, and your job on offense is to take key objectives and push the enemy back, just like Operations or Rush in the Battlefield franchise. What we don't know about yet, and you guys might correct me here because I haven't done too much research, is how many people are going to be playing on this mode. I'm guessing it's going to have to be more than the standard 5 versus 5. This sounds like an epic experience, and I'm really crossing my fingers that that's the direction that they're going. I would love to see a huge game mode added into Call of Duty. They haven't done a whole lot to spice up the franchise other than just adding in a couple subtle things here and there. What I would love is to have an all-out epic game mode, war game mode, that's just two struggling factions pushing back and forth. That actually sounds incredible. Once again, though, I am going to be reserving my judgment until we see that gameplay, because who knows, it could just be a pile of crap. The next question comes from Tyler, and it is, what are your thoughts on an attacking operator that has a charge like Thermite or Habana that can break through metal windows, but he can only have one charge? I have never thought of that. I know in past Sunday mailboxes, we've talked about the idea of bringing in a new operator or having an existing operator like Thermite just to avoid the hatch system, just avoid the hatches, and just use his thermal charge on the ground itself and open up a hole. That way, if you know the objective is directly below you, but you want to flank from different angles that we don't normally have, you would have that option with Thermites. The problem with that, though, is that while it sounds cool, and this was available back in that E3 trailer many, many years ago, the reason why they probably went to the hatch system is that you can actually balance it that way. If all of a sudden defense had to deal with two random holes or just a gigantic hole above them, there's this void. There's no way they're going to be able to defend that objective room. There's no way that that is going to be feasible, and that's probably why they brought in the hatches, simply because of balance. I imagine the same is true for the metal windows. Ubisoft balanced these maps and these objective rooms around the idea that there's only so many angles and ways that offense can get onto that objective. If all of a sudden a new way was introduced that wasn't accounted for. I mean, the rooms were not balanced with it. I mean, that's why they're there. If all of a sudden you had one extra access route, that might push the favor too far into the offensive territory, and these objectives may no longer be viable to defend on defense. And so while I really like the idea, I feel like the only way that this would be possible is if Ubisoft went through all of the maps and balanced them around the idea that you could now punch through these reinforced or these metal windows. Who knows, maybe this operator in reality wouldn't actually be all that great. You're only able to open up one window and one window only, and windows do come with their drawbacks. And so while I think that's an interesting concept, I just don't see this happening for Siege, mainly because they would have to balance out all of the maps and every single objective with this operator in mind. Yeah, in most cases it may not be great, but on some maps it may just be so flat out overpowered because you do need to have that angle covered. You do need to have and make sure that there isn't that side route that they can flank you from, and that would be something that Ubisoft would have to consider, and that would basically require every single map to be reworked and rebalanced with this operator, and I just don't think that they're going to do that. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on what we discussed today. Are you excited for the new Call of Duty? Are you waiting like I am until you see gameplay? Let me know down below. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can leave a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.